the original vision was just to make sure our kids look good out there on the floor. And it grew from there to what it is today. We get so caught up in trying to outdo the next person, out-talk the next person, out-accomplish the next person. We forgot to help out this community and make these kids understand there's other things to do than the foolishness that they choose to do.
Hello and welcome to Around the Way with EJ. I'm your host, Eric Johnson. And first off, I want to thank you for joining me on what is a new, exciting, digital-only platform here on WSLS.com, where we look to explore, share, and really talk to those inspirational people in and around the Roanoke Valley with the main goal of letting today's youth know that they too can be a leader and create their own path to success. Now, with that being said, I am honored to be joined by our inaugural guest for this segment. He is a William Fleming High School graduate, 1991, proudly, I should say. I'm sure he'll remind me in just a few minutes. He also graduated from Winston-Salem State in 1996 with his bachelor's in mass communication, and he's also a graduate of George Mason University in 2005 with his master's of education. I want to welcome Mr. Champ Hubbard to the platform. I'll call him Coach because I've known him as Coach for years at William Fleming High School. But Coach, welcome to the platform, and thanks for joining me today. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me, man. It's anything for you, E. This is a great opportunity, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for even thinking of me to be a part of this.
I want to start out with Flycodes because a lot of people know you from your basketball background and coaching background, but there are a lot of kids that may know you from Flycodes now. It's been a while it's been out, so April 2013 is when this thing really got started. Could you just walk us down that road of the thought process of going from, creating socks to something as big as it is today?
It started, I mean, you were there from the very beginning. I started this thing with coaching a girls basketball program at William Fleming High School, and I had to find something to get those girls to be in tune with what we had in store for them for the future. And one of those things was fashion. So we always wanted the girls to look good out there on the floor. Long story short, and I'm sure people have heard this story before, but our goal was to look good on the floor and play good on the floor. So as long as they worked hard in the gym and played hard, I would reward them with getting them like free pair of socks for the season, or sometimes shoes. Or at the first year, it was actually we got new uniforms. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get new uniforms every year, so I would, guarantee that I could afford socks because it's coming from my pocket or whatnot. And that kind of grew into something. Every year they were expecting the socks, and we would get just enough made for the people that were in the program. So anybody that was outside the program were asking about these custom-made socks that had WF on them, or later on there was 540, but they were asking about the socks, and there would only be enough made for our kids. So one thing I realized is that it was a high demand. People were really asking about it. Other schools and things of that sort were engulfed in the fact that they couldn't understand why we had custom socks on them, what made that so special. Long story short, I came out in April. Actually, in March, we came up with the idea of starting our own sock brand. And again, it came from the girls because they set the tone for it. So long story short, we did a sale and they actually came wrong. The socks didn't come the way I expected them to come. And we sold out of them in 3 hours. I think we had 70 pair of socks and we sold out in like 3 hours. And the crazy thing about it wasn't parents buying them. I mean, it wasn't kids buying them. It was their parents. They wanted to wear them. So fast forward, that grew into something bigger, and it kept continuing to grow. And we wanted to move into athletic apparel with some of my expertise or knowledge gained from coaching basketball and ordering athletic apparel throughout the years. I was like, I can make something that's better than this. And long story short, we got to a point where we started athletic apparel. So we broadened our horizon, and it's grown into what it is now. And, it's funny you said that, like the kids don't know me. A lot of the kids don't know me as Coach Hubbard. I'm 3 years removed from being the head coach at William Fleming, but they do know me as a sock man, which is kind of weird. But at the same time, they put a name to a face and they see the brand Flycodes and they're like, oh, that's Coach Hubbard. He runs Flycodes. So it's been good for this community, for us, to a point where it's all I want to do. You know what I mean? It's my new game.
Absolutely. And speaking of helping a girl, I mean, did you ever imagine you would have a company, first off, to not only have custom socks, but yet you can fit somebody literally head to toe now? I mean, you've gone from socks to the sweatpants to sweatshirts, T-shirts, right. You got hats.
The good thing about doing it in this community, you know the owner. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to knock you upside the head and kill you with these prices, but I respect our product. I know the research that we've done for each piece of our product. And that's why we set our prices where they need to be. And we want to make it feasible for people around this community to afford them. But we also do a lot of other things because through the company, like we do the showcases, and we plan on doing a Flycodes appreciation weekend and things of that sort. We haven't set that in stone yet, but we want to give back to the community. We donate to our William Fleming High School. We donate to Northside High School. We've donated to a lot of places and a lot of things behind the scenes. And those are just two that I just wanted to bring up because I respect those programs so much. And I want to let the people know that we don't do this just to make money. We do this to make sure the community continues to grow. And unfortunately, I'm not big enough where I can hire a whole lot of people. So instead of doing that, I try to give money back and try to do things where somebody else can benefit from it. So that's ultimately our goal.
Man, that is awesome to truly see a dream turn into a reality, to see a company turn into a brand that does more than just clothing now. As you mentioned, all the showcases you guys have done, the golf tournament we were out at just a few years ago, just great stuff you do overall. You touched on the community, and you being from here in Roanoke, you know just how special it is and how important it is to get the right message out about everyone in the community. And obviously with you having a home-based company here, you've been influenced by people during your come up. Who are some of those that perhaps you've turned to, and what have been some of their insights that have helped you kind of stay on the straight and narrow, if you will?
This is going to sound cheesy, but I just look at my dad. Honestly, he is, when you're growing up, you don't necessarily really realize it, but he has been my everything, and my mother for that matter, but my dad especially, because whenever there's anything wrong, he can fix it. Instead of just going to get someone to fix it, do it yourself. So a lot of these different things, these characteristics that he has taught me over the years, which I didn't realize he was doing that. But when I start thinking of doing things, I'm like, I can just do this myself. You know what I mean? Instead of thinking about it. And then I got so many mentors that I was blessed to be able to come up in athletics. So I have so many mentors like Joe Gaither, Roland Lovelace, Mike Franklin, Ricky Wright, Mickey Hardy, Burl Page, Andy Gray, Roland Lovelace, Coach Miller, Coach Smith, Coach Stewart, so many people, Coach Barlow. There's so many people that have shaped the individual that you see before you, to a point where to even be mentioned in the arena of those individuals is an honor, even not necessarily as a peer, but even as a kid being part of those programs. And there's so many people that I can relate to because we all grew up through that mentorship that seems to be, there's a different element of it in today's society. You know what I mean? And there's no disrespect to who's in position now or where they've come from or whatever, but It's nothing wrong with have some of that hometown connection where you can say, yo, Champ, come here, let me holler at you right quick. We get so caught up in trying to outdo the next person, out-talk the next person, out-accomplish the next person. We forgot to help out this community and make these kids understand there's other things to do than the foolishness that they choose to do. That's the thing that I would say about the coaches that I looked up to. They were good coaches. They were great coaches for that matter, but they were even better men and better mentors. You know what I mean? And they had flaws too. All of them wasn't peachy keen, but when you was in their face, they knew what was right for you to be a survivor in this community. And that's the best compliment I can give them, is that yeah, you had some flaws. You probably try to whatever. But at the end of the day, you're human. You being a human didn't get in the way of you trying to do better for the kids that were coming up under you. And I put the pressure on other sports people that grew up in this community to say that more instead of talking about their own selves.
And it's so important that you mention that, especially mentors, because you mentioned your dad as someone that now in hindsight you can say, hey, that was that guy, and it is true. You kind of have that revelation that at some point in life you're like, you know what, dad was kind of always there, But for those out there that don't have the dad at home or the dad, on a weekly or monthly basis or such, that's where the mentors are huge. And I've always appreciated that, especially with you. Having been a kid from a single parent home with me and mom, dad totally in my life. Love dad. Shout out to dad, by the way. Yeah. We know dad. But
Don't give him no shout out.
But no, that's what I always loved about you, is because I could always see the true, genuine care that you had for each and every student you came in contact with, whether they were on your team or just walking the halls at William Fleming. You had that genuine care. And I think that's important that you touch on that, trying to get back to that, because we, as we always say, it takes a village, and we're always constantly evolving.
We had people that was still had mom and dad at home, so they were still getting that influence.
Sure.
But when you don't have that stern influence all the time, and mommy is working her butt off 2 or 3 jobs to make sure she's putting food on the table, or even if she's being lazy, either way, you're not getting the nurturing that you normally will want or need. And that's a major part. You don't necessarily have to live in the same house, but you need to have a relationship with your father some kind of way. You know what I mean? And that's just what I believe. If you want the best out of a kid, and if it's not there, you need to have somebody that can be a mentor to fill that role to a certain extent, at least 2 hours a day, at least 3 hours a day, at least 5 hours a day.
Very
what I mean? And I felt like that was some of my goal, to make sure I was that for those individuals. But the other part of that, Eric, is that it takes away from what your family gets. There's been many times I was tired and went home and went to sleep, when my son was probably like, well, he ain't got time, or he tired, or whatever. Right. And that's the beauty of retiring. I'm getting the opportunity to be able to be that person now.
You touched on in terms of trying to keep things positive. And I remember one of your last years coaching, you had on the back of your shirt, stereotype for success. And not to get long-winded on that, but essentially, I know it was always important to you for people to have that right perspective, that real perspective that, hey, positive things can grow from a part of the city where people look down upon it. How have you kind of molded that and kind of used that even beyond just the court, but just life in general?
I told them, like, you're going to be stereotyped the rest of your life because of the color of your skin. I'm just being honest. We have to be honest and not be scared to say that out loud. You're going to be stereotyped. I mean, don't get fooled by all this Black Lives Matter stuff right now. That's great and wonderful what's going on, but we also got to realize eventually it's going to go back to normal. And we have to be real with that and understand that there's a stereotype when you walk in the door. I'm an angry Black man when they see me on the street until they hear me talk. And they're like, oh, I love Coach Hubbard. He's incredible. Look what he's done for the community. But before, I was the bald-headed Black man with the white beard with the frown and stuff. So we have to be real. If you tell yourself that you are successful, then your stereotype, when they look at you, you feel like they're looking at success. They're not looking at you as a failure. They're not looking at you as a loser. They're looking at you as a overachiever, a champion.
When it comes to success, a lot of times, we'll have teachers coming up and they define it a certain way, but it might not look like a certain way for one kid that it might look like for the other. So I really appreciate what you said. Hey, when you leave high school with that diploma, they'll account for their own success, whatever that may be, whether they, go on to get a bachelor's in mass communication or a master's of education, or be an entrepreneur after it's all said and done, and have a thriving local business. So I just think you're a great example. And the message that you shared today, just so great, and can be beneficial for everybody, but especially today's youth. if you had to give them some words of encouragement in terms of how to keep pressing on, or perhaps what's next, that kid that's in 10th grade knocking off in class or not paying attention, what's your message to the youth today?
Set your future goals now. That's what I didn't do when I was in high school. Future goals. I mean, I got this pretty girl in my class that I'm trying to go see. I was not thinking about what the future lies in front of me. You know what I mean? And I took it for granted. I'll be honest with you. I was a slightly above average student. I probably could have been an A student. You know, I really didn't apply myself. I did well in tests and didn't really do well in homework. You know what I mean? But I'm a realist too. When I went to college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't even know if I really wanted to go to college. I knew I wanted to play football. But other than that, I didn't have no idea what I wanted to do. It took me to my junior year to realize that I needed to straighten up, because I need to be a force out here in this community somewhere in whatever thing that I decide to do. So my message to those kids is set your goals now. Go ahead and stop. Listen, you got the technology that we didn't have. Use your technology and set goals now. If you want to be an entrepreneur, be that entrepreneur. Do the research. Research the product if you want to sell clothes. Research the chemicals you need if you want to be a car detailer. Research the things that are important. You know, if you want to set yourself up. If you want to be a gamer, no excuses, because you own the games all day long. You ain't got no excuse not to know what to do with. You should know ins and out of every game. So there's so many opportunities now with the technology. I mean, hey, rappers getting paid $200,000 a rap. Back then, they was getting paid like $1,500 for a show. So it's just being real. I'm trying to cover all bases. If you want to be, if you picture yourself being a sportscaster, don't fall short and give up just because somebody came to you and said, film these basketball games. Take it as, what's wrong, Eric? Take it as an opportunity to be the very best that you can be. Because listen, if you do what you're supposed to do, you'll grow a goatee and you'll be on TV. I love you, man. I love you too. Listen, I'll tell you this. You are a walking inspiration to every student that you ain't got to just play sports. You can be whatever you wanted to be. I don't think you was even sure if you really wanted to be a newscaster. But when you got your opportunity and you got behind the camera, look at what you became. So
absolutely. And I owe the start to you, Coach. And you know where we go.
Yeah. I don't want that credit. I think, and that's the most important thing I'll say out of all of this, every individual has something in them that can be successful.
Absolutely. Coach, I love you. I appreciate it, man. You always got words of wisdom, words of advice. I just want to thank you so much for joining us here, especially on our inaugural episode. Obviously, you know, we're trying to take off from here. Maybe we'll be flying one day like Flycodes, but
no doubt about it. Hey.
No, we certainly appreciate your time, man. And that'll do it for this episode of Around the Way with EJ. If you out there know of someone in the community that perhaps you feel like a light should be shed on them, feel free to email me, ejohnson@wsls.com. We'll be sure to make contact with them and see if they too can be here on our next episode. Until then, always keep in mind, the bad times make the good times seem so much better. We'll see you next week.
Stay fly.